Hello and welcome. I'm Ambassador Carla Sands, Chair of the Foreign Policy Initiative and Distinguished Senior Fellow for Energy Policy at the America First Policy Institute. It's a pleasure to be with you today for a timely and important discussion. As a former U.S. ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark, Greenland, and the Faroe Islands, and someone deeply committed to advancing America's national security and strategic influence, I've seen firsthand how diplomacy, bold policy, and principled leadership can shape the global order. Today, we're on the cusp of a pivotal moment in U.S. foreign policy. For the first time in history, a Syrian head of state, President Ahmad Sharaa, is scheduled to visit the White House. This historic development comes amid shifting alliances in the Middle East. The potential for Syria to join the U.S.-led coalition against ISIS, and quiet but significant talks between Syria and Israel, with American mediation at the center. To help us understand the stakes, the strategy, and the significance of this visit, I'm honored to be joined by one of America's foremost national security minds, Fred Fleitz. Fred serves as Vice Chair of AFPI's Center for American Security. He's a former Chief of Staff of the Trump National Security Council and a former CIA analyst. Fred, thank you for joining me.
It's great to be here.
Well, today we have this visit by a former member of Al-Qaeda. It's the Syrian President Ahmad Sharaa. It's certainly a development no one could have anticipated or predicted just a few months ago. Why is this meeting taking place?
Well, it really is an extraordinary meeting, and it is a result of some unexpected developments. Al-Sharaa was a member of Al-Qaeda. He succeeded in overthrowing the Assad government last year because of the weakness of Hezbollah, which is Iran's proxy in Lebanon, and the fact that Russia is basically pretty busy with the war in Ukraine. This created an opportunity to take advantage of the Assad regime, which was extraordinarily weak, and after it was overthrown, al-Sharaa took power. No one saw this coming. Now, the original approach by most experts, including myself, is stay away from this guy. He was a member of al-Qaeda. He's going to convert Syria into an Islamist state like Iran. So far, that hasn't turned out to be the case. He has said he wants to reach out to the world. He wants to create an inclusive government. He wants to have productive and peaceful relations with Israel. He has not met all these promises, and there has been sectarian violence in Syria by some of his forces that his government may not be responsible for. We're trying to figure that out. But the prospects are promising. And I might add another reason this happened is because President Trump was introduced to al-Sharaa when he visited Saudi Arabia in May. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman introduced them and made the case that it is in the interest of global security and Middle East security to have a stable government in Syria, and that's why the Saudis, other nations in the region, and the United States have decided to give al-Sharaa a chance.
Well, to that point, because you talked about the sectarian violence, we've seen the photos of the murders at hospitals, the murders of Christians, Druze, and others in Syria by, it seems, either outbreaks from groups outside of his or his own group, I'm not sure. But how can we make sure that legitimizing this leader in Syria is the right thing to do? And then how can we make sure that his coming to the White House, which is an incredible honor every head of state wants, how can we make sure it's not just a photo op, that there are tangible benefits to the United States, but also to the people in Syria?
No, that's an important question, and it is unclear the responsibility of the al-Sharaa government in this violence. Clearly, elements of his security services have been involved in violence against Christians, against Alawites, against the Druze. You know, Israel actually invaded Syria to protect their allies, the Druze, in southern Syria, and they're still there. So this is a real question that has to be resolved. Basically, al-Sharaa does not have control of his whole government. He does not have control of the whole country. He only controls about 70% of it. He has to get control of the country. Developing the country will be key to getting political control, which is why he's looking for investment from the United States, from Gulf states, from European states. There's also another issue here that's related to what you asked. That's the role of Russia. Russia has two large military bases in Syria. And, it was interesting that when al-Sharaa marched into Damascus with its forces, they attacked the Iranian embassy. because Iran was such a strong backer of the Assad regime. They did not attack the Russian embassy because it looks like al-Shara's people struck a deal with the Russians, at least an initial deal. Al-Shara was just in Moscow. I think President Trump is going to make a big point here. If you want to legitimize yourself as a world leader, al-Shara has to make the point that he has to cut his ties with Russia. He has to close these military bases that Russia is using to promote global instability, including in Libya. So there's a lot on the agenda here. There's a lot that al-Shara will have to do to legitimize himself in front of the world and the United States.
Well, do you think Israel will keep the land that they have there where they're protecting the Druze? It seems like they're keeping peace as a matter of fact.
Well, President Trump would like to negotiate a peace pact between Syria and Israel, so Israel can withdraw from that area. But as long as it is lawless and led by Sunni militias who want to kill the Druze, Israel's not going to withdraw. The Druze are an ally of Israel. Israel backs its allies. But I think a solution is coming in the near future where we can see Israeli troops will pull out. Someone will be patrolling this area to protect it. But in the short term, I don't see Syria withdrawing. But resolving this issue and promoting good relations between Syria and Israel is a U.S. priority.
To your point about normalizing those relationships, do you think that this is an opportunity to normalize the relationship between Israel and Syria? And do you think this could pave the way to them potentially joining the Abraham Accords?
You know, I think there's a real possibility Syria could join the Abraham Accords. And al-Shara has said the right things about Syria. He's not about Israel. He's not happy that Israel has actually been bombing locations within Syria. Right after Assad fell, Israel did a series of airstrikes to destroy all kinds of Syrian military equipment, so it would never be used against Israel, because Israel didn't know what this government would be like. But al-Shara says he wants to have peaceful and productive relations with Israel. That is a good sign. And if this is true, if we can actually get this peace accord between both states agreed to, I think there's good prospects that Syria would make this arrangement. Syria desperately needs the investment. It is desperately poor after the civil war that broke out in the Arab Spring in 2011. A good relationship, a good economic relationship with Israel is in the interest of Syria.
It's just amazing to see what President Trump is doing around the world, where he is attempting to, through economic benefits and cooperation, bring peace. And, that part of the world does seem to need a strong man as a leader. So perhaps this is our guy. I think time will only tell. But what do you think about the possibility of this new al-Shara government joining our attempts to end or destroy ISIS?
That is a priority for this government. I think that's what makes this meeting so attractive for President Trump. Now, al-Shara actually has been at war with ISIS for some time. He broke with al-Qaeda, I think about 8 or 9 years ago, never was aligned with ISIS, has really used his operation, which was a terrorist group, to target the Assad regime. There were atrocities, not just against Assad people. No. Al-Shara and his people have a lot to answer for. Yes. But there's a large ISIS contingent in Syria. Al-Shara wants to destroy it, and I think he's sincere in saying he wants to join a global alliance to do that.
Fred, in your opinion, does it seem that President Trump and his administration are bringing more stability to the Middle East, which I would say under the Obama administration and the Biden administration did seem to have a lot of chaos and a lot of growth of terror?
I think there's no question about that. We know the weakness of Obama strengthened Syrian President Assad, and I think we can see how Middle East security significantly declined due to the weakness and incompetence of Joe Biden and his weak foreign policy. A strong president is good for global security. Trump is turning out to be one of the strongest presidents ever on the world scene. And I mean, you could see at the Sharm el-Sheikh summit that was held after the 20-point peace plan was announced for Gaza, how every nation wanted to come up and get their picture taken with President Trump. They wanted to talk with him. They wanted a strong American leader. They wanted a world leader to help bring stability to the region. And Donald Trump, we have that.
I totally agree. I mean, it's such a relief, I think, for the world. We're all breathing a little better as he brings order out of chaos. And I hate to do it, but Hillary Clinton was also a big push on the disorder and chaos in the Middle East. When you see her foreign policy as the Secretary of State, it was I think, one of the worst times in modern American history as far as spreading chaos and disaster, disorder around the world. But Fred, this has been really enlightening. Is there anything, last thoughts you want to leave us with about this meeting, this historic meeting, a first of its kind in the world to have the U.S. president meet with the leader of Syria?
Well, President Trump is taking a gamble with Sharaa. But I think it's a gamble worth taking because we don't want Syria to turn into another Lebanon, a lawless state or a fractured state that will become dominated by radical Islamist terrorist groups, including ISIS and al-Qaeda. It's essential to have order and strong governance in Syria. The Saudis strongly believe that. They made this case of President Trump. I think President Trump is doing the right thing. And what he'll be doing will be trying to push Sharaa in the right direction. One problem we have with the Sharaa government right now is that it is not inclusive. It's staffed by former fighters. It's staffed by people from his own clan. That is not a good a recipe for a stable government. That will lead to instability in the future. It has to be a diverse government. All elements of society have to be included in it, all the various factions and ethnic groups. If he does that, I think there's a good prognosis for the future.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom on this topic. Thank you for joining us today and this important discussion about how President Trump is bringing order out of chaos and bringing peace to the Middle East.